Welcome to episode number 201 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We are recording live on YouTube on September 14, 2017. A ton of things to talk about this week, including an iPhone parody, riding the storm out, interactive radio theater, easy tweet storms, the Russian backdoor, Bothies, brand sites beat retail, buy bodegas, Equifaxed, BuzzFeed banners, checkmarks, black market, Scarelli screwed, and a lot more. BL, you kicked off with the best story of the week. What was that?
Well, I got more bad news than good news this week, but the funniest thing I saw this week was Boing Boing's iPhone X parody video. And it starts out, the iPhone X has face recognition, so it shoots thousands of tiny lasers into your face to take a picture of it. And the way they describe it, even if you change your hair or you put on glasses or you wear a hat, they'll still recognize your face. And so the video starts out, when you look at your phone, it'll shoot thousands of lasers straight into your pores. Then it sucks your soul like Dementor. Thank you for your life juice. But actually, if you want the 256 gigabyte iPhone X, it's $1,200. Plus, of course, you got to spend the $199 on AppleCare because it's glass on both sides. You're going to drop it and break it, so definitely going to need AppleCare. And it appears that the charge, it's wireless. It doesn't have a headphone jack, which is why I'm not buying it. But it appears that you have to buy the charging pad, the wireless charging pad, separately. And they didn't happen to mention what that costs. And I'm pretty sure you have to buy those stupid wireless earphones that fall out of everybody's ears and then have to be replaced for something like $70. So this is a pretty major investment. And without the headphone jack, it's pretty useless for Facebook Live or for what we're doing right now, which is recording on YouTube, because you cannot count on the sound just from the phone. It's just ridiculous. You can't get rid of the background noises unless you have a headset. So that's just stupid. And okay, as one of my friends pointed out, let's say you're unconscious or just sleeping, or maybe you got mugged and somebody holds the phone up next to your face. You don't know about it because you're unconscious, sleeping, or otherwise unable to respond. And then they get into your bank account and all your stuff, and they take it all because your face unlocks your phone. And then there's the insurance you're going to need, because you're going to keep shattering the glass. And it comes with you can have animated emojis. So like if you've been pining for a poop emoji, this is it for you. That said, the AR, the augmented reality, is pretty cool. So if you really want to be able to add, let's say, a dinosaur to a picture of your kid playing basketball, this is the thing to do. But I really never get, as I was saying to you before the show, I never get the first of a new Apple product. I always wait until they come back and they fill it up, because so this parody video is the $1,000 emoji machine, and it's quite funny. So we'll have it in the show notes. But basically, you can make your facial expressions on the emoji. So the poop emoji can have your facial expressions, should you so desire. Which I don't.
Yeah, well, maybe it's time for me to switch back over to an Android phone. It's been a while since I've had an Android phone. Samsung makes really good phones, and Nokia is trying to enter the market. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's a huge money-making scheme for Apple, isn't it?
It is. And it was interesting to me that all of the people who did the introductions were all kind of gray-haired old guys.
Who like can afford a $1,200, right. $1,200+ phone. I did read an article that it makes it eminently much more easy for cops to search your phone, because they don't have to ask for the password. They just point it at your face. And,
yep. Yeah, I don't think that's good.
Not that I'm really worried about that, but
Well, you never know. You just never know.
Border guards, maybe. So This was a pretty interesting story. It's in Best because, well, you'll just listen, you'll find out why. This is from a Mashable article by Rachel Krauss. One of our favorite corporate leaders, Richard Branson, has a private Necker Island that is near the Virginia Islands in Puerto Rico. And in the path of Hurricane Irma, he rode out the storm on his island in his concrete wine cellar during Hurricane Irma, and emerged to document the devastation, which was pretty stunning. He documented the damage to his personal property by way of demonstrating the widespread destruction Irma caused as it tore through the Caribbean, and emphasized to his followers that we should all focus on the thousands of people who've lost their homes and livelihoods. On the Virgin website, there's a donation option to help raise funds for Irma victims. And Branson writes on the site, man-made climate change is contributing to increasingly strong hurricanes causing unprecedented damage. The whole world should be scrambling to get on top of the climate change issue before it's too late for this generation, let alone the generations to come. So again, using his platform and the massive following that he has to stand for something. And increasingly, that's what people are looking for in brands. So good example of that.
Well, I have relatives in Florida, and they're in Key West, and they have nothing to go home to, you know. Well, the thing of it is, like, the houses are concrete, but there's no roof, there's no windows, there's no floor anymore. The cars are destroyed, you know. It's tough.
Yeah, but I have friends, relatives in Orlando, so they really avoided. You know, they just got their power back, so it's like nothing compared to what
Disney World was open. A Disney resort. My friend she had been in Tampa at a condo that she owns, and Tampa was supposed to get the big surge and the big heavy hits, so they had to evacuate Tampa. So they decided to go to Disney World, and they stayed at the Disney resort. So the rides were closed down until, like, I don't know, 2 days later, the rides came back. But she sent a picture of Mickey Mouse at the front desk. No, it was Donald Duck at the front desk. So they had a sense of humor about it.
Well, it's good to have. I saw a story about the Hemingway House, which is one of Hemingway's residents that is in the Keys, built in the Keys, was built in like the late 1800s by a former sailor who understood that the Keys would be pummeled by hurricanes. So he built it to spec, basically, without any of the forewarning of any of the meteorological equipment we have now and knowledge that we have now. But he built it way above sea level, and the walls are massive concrete, just massive walls. So the proprietor of the place and the 52 cats that live there.
I know the cats are okay. I read that.
And the staff all stayed in there, and they had a storage of food and everything, and they survived just fine. It actually keeps the air cool because it's behind such massive walls that there's kind of natural air conditioning in there. So it's a pretty amazing story. But from a real storm to a tweet storm, Twitter apparently has a new feature that they're developing, but they haven't released to the wild. This is from a Recode article by Johanna Booyah. This feature lets people draft out an entire tweet storm and then send them out all together. So maybe the president could use this, but the feature was first pointed out by Matt Navarra, who at the Next Web. The feature's not yet live in the Twitter app, but he found it within the Android app. I guess a developer found it within the Android app. But users, if you want to do a tweet storm, users have to manually reply to each of their previous tweets to create one. And that's obviously a lot more labor intensive than creating it all at once and sending it out as a single tweet, which this feature would do. Twitter declined to comment. So it's not live. We don't know if it'll see the light of day, but I think it's a pretty cool feature.
It's an interesting idea because, I mean, I like it better than more than 140 characters in a tweet, which I always thought was a horrible idea, but it will encourage more people to, run on. But anyway, speaking of cool things that are happening, BBC is making interactive radio plays for Alexa and Google Home. Well, both of which had a little problem with, what show did it to them yesterday? But anyway.
South Park.
South Park, yeah. But this is from a story in The Verge by Chaim Gartenberg. And on this one, on these BBC shows, this is truly what interactive was, that we thought about when we were kids. You get to decide, that it's comedy and science fiction, and you get to decide what happens next. The first show is called The Inspection Chamber, and it's kind of like a adventure book or a game, and you hear a chunk of the story and then you get a choice of what should happen next. And they worked with a company called Rosina Sound to develop it, and the piece is taken inspirations from games like the Stanley Parable and Papa Sangri, neither of which I know anything about, especially in terms of new ways to offer interactive fiction. Oops, sorry about that.
BL.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Shit. Okay, sorry. So it's okay. BBC
You
says
know better, BL.
I do know better. I was waiting for a call and I thought it would come before the show. I apologize. BBC says it's developed a story engine and it makes it easy to release the same story on multiple platforms. So it's going to be available on Amazon Alexa, Google Home devices, and it's going to release later this year. And they're thinking about expanding to Cortana smart speakers or Apple's HomePod. However, hackers have come up with a way to control Alexa, Siri, etc., with ultrasound that humans can't hear. So they could, for example, direct Alexa to turn off your security, or do any number of things to your house or whatever. And there's something called Dolphin Attack, which is a team from Zhejiang University that translated typical vocal commands into ultrasonic frequencies. They're too high for humans' ears to hear, but perfectly decipherable by the microphones and software powering our voice assistants. So, they didn't just activate basic commands like, hey, Siri or okay, Google. They could tell your iPhone, dial 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or they could tell your MacBook or your PC to open a malicious website. They could order an Amazon Echo to open the back door. They could even have its own navigation system that directs to a new location. So this is a very scary thing. And this has just come up and nobody's really figured out what they're going to do about it yet. So, oh boy.
You realize you just activated all of our listeners' Google Homes, Echoes, and Series. Yeah. Every one of them. You touched all the bases there. Speaking of hacking, the Star Tribune has Kavita Kumar has a story of our local retailer here in Minnesota, Best Buy, has pulled Kaspersky Labs antivirus software from their shelves. They're no longer selling it amid concerns that Kaspersky Lab could have links to the Russian government. The decision was prompted by media reports, congressional testimony, industry discussion, raising questions about the Moscow-based company. Best Buy felt there were too many unanswered questions and decided to stop selling the products. The Kaspersky Lab has more than 400 million users. They've strongly denied any links to Russian government. Best Buy has sold their products for more than a decade. But in addition to this story, then after that, a story came out from the Washington Post by Ellen Nakashima and Jack Gillum about Kaspersky software being banned from federal agencies amid concerns of Russian espionage. So acting Homeland Security Secretary Elaine Duke ordered that Kaspersky Lab software be barred from federal civilian government networks. The department statement reads, the department is concerned about the ties between certain Kaspersky officials and Russian intelligence and other government agencies and requirements under Russian law that allow Russian intelligence agencies to request or compel assistance from Kaspersky and to intercept communications transiting Russian networks. The risk that the Russian government, whether acting on its own or in collaboration with Kaspersky, could capitalize on access provided by Kaspersky products to compromise federal information and information systems directly implicates U.S. National security. At least a half dozen federal agencies run their software, although there may be more because chief information officers at departments may not be aware that it's being used. It only applies to civilian government networks, not the militaries, which doesn't use Kaspersky software. And the intelligence community has long assessed that that Kaspersky has ties to the Russian government. The company founder, Eugene Kaspersky, graduated from KGB-supported cryptography.
Oh, come on! And they let him do business?
And had worked in Russian military intelligence. I mean, like, really? I mean, isn't it obvious? So at least they, better late than never, I guess.
Okay, well, Dave, I'm out of good news. I have a lot of bad news to share, so go ahead and share some more good news if you got it.
All right. This is a wonderful story from The Guardian by Samuel Gibbs about what I mentioned, Nokia trying to get back into the smartphone game. So the Nokia 8 marks their effort to get back into the mainstream handset market. Android flagship smartphone is designed to compete with the iPhone and the Samsung's Galaxy. It features a polished aluminum body, Carl Zeiss cameras, spatial audio pulled from Nokia's high-end 360-degree cameras, a high-resolution 5.3-inch or 5.3-inch screen. The company is pushing. This is the best part of it. The company is pushing what it calls the Bothy as the next evolution of the selfie. So using Nokia's dual sight technology, you can fire up both the rear and the front-facing cameras at the same time and shoot video or photos of the subject and yourself simultaneously. So you could do that as video and then share it live directly to Facebook or YouTube. So you can have on one half of the screen yourself being recorded, on the other half of the screen, whatever you're looking at being recorded, and have commentary about it.
It splits the screen in the resulting video?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Well, what the Apple phone has, what the $1,200 phone has, is it has lighting built in so that you can have portrait lighting, you can have a studio lighting, a variety of different kinds of lighting that you can use while you're taking the picture or edit with it afterwards. I mean, it is really very cool, but it only has 7 megapixels, which, I had a camera 10 years ago with 12, so another reason why I'm not spending $1,200. Anyhow,
$1,200 plus.
Right? Yeah,
plus. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And
so
tax.
one last good one. This is from Peter Rosler article at Inc. He comments on an Astound Commerce survey of 1,000 consumers who shop online and have visited a brand manufacturer's website in the past 6 months. The survey found that 54% of the shoppers turn to brands over retailers for more comprehensive product information, in addition to enhanced customer service, better prices, more personalized options. 55% of shoppers prefer to shop directly with brand manufacturers over retailers, and 59% of respondents already use a brand manufacturer's website for researching products and usually make their purchases there as well. About 37% said they expect a more engaging experience on brand manufacturer's website than a retailer's, and pricing was also a concern, with half of the respondents expecting better prices on a brand manufacturer's website. You think about it, a retailer's website is a lot of product specs mostly, right?
Yes, it is, but it's got reviews.
That's true. Yeah, but a lot of, well, yeah, I guess, good point. But there's not a lot of in-depth information about particular products. The brand sites have that, and are typically better designed because they're designed for the brand experience, not the shopping retail experience.
But equally so, there's a great deal of research that shows that millennials don't really care about brands. So I don't know what age groups that applies to. I don't care about brands most of the time. I more care about the specs.
All right.
Anyway, on to the terrible news. Two ex-Google Googlers want to eliminate bodegas and other mom and pop stores. This is the article I'll start with is from a Fast Company article by Elizabeth Segrin. And okay, I'm from New York. There's a bodega. They've been here all my life. There's 3 within a block of my house. They stay open 24/7. They make the neighborhood safe. They know your name. They know your dog. You come home drunk at 4 o'clock in the morning, they'll make you a BLT. You know, I mean, they are. So now these 2, I don't know what else to call them, insensitive, tone-deaf, non-Hispanic ex-Googlers and their equally white privileged investors have started this whole firestorm with their new ham-handed idea, which they call Bodega, and which they have the temerity to use a Bodega cat as their, what is that thing called? Their logo. And I mean, this is one of the things about Bodega, and you can go and look at Bodega Cat on Instagram. They are much loved creatures. They lounge around on the counter. You know, they catch the mice in the store. Anyway, Paul McDonald, who spent 13 years as a product manager at Google, and his co-founder, Aswath Rajan, is also a Google veteran, and they call the store Bodega. They call the thing that is absolutely not a bodega. It's an unmanned cabinet that they want to put into apartments, offices, dorms, and gyms. And they say it promises convenience, but unfortunately, it's also going to put mom and pop bodegas out of business. So as non-Hispanics, hello, it's definitely disrespectful to use the name bodega when you want to eliminate the jobs of people in corner stores that are loved by so many people. People do proposals there. I mean, but these insensitive clogs. And so in most cases, this is the thing that's so incredible to me. They don't pay for the retail space. They pitch themselves as an amenity to property managers. And they're saying, well, at gyms, for instance, you know, we could have power bars and protein powder and sports equipment. Well, gyms I go to have shops that sell those things already. Why the hell would they want these guys to come in and take that business away from them? And McDonald's says eventually centralized shopping locations won't be necessary because there will be, God forbid, 100,000, he didn't say God forbid, I did, 100,000 bodegas spread out with one usually 100 feet from you. So hello, Frank Garcia, the chairman of the New York State Coalition of Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. He represents thousands upon thousands of bodega owners. He says, to me, it's offensive for people who are not Hispanic to use the name bodega to make a quick buck. It's disrespecting all the mom and pop bodega owners that started in the 60s and 70s. And then one of their VCs wrote in ink, we're going to exterminate the local stores you've always known and put their employees out of business and replace them with cabinets whose contents are algorithmically, I'm sorry, he's not one of the VCs, he's a reporter, whose contents are algorithmically curated to serve your demographic, except when we replace a product you like with one a marketer paid us to feature. That's pretty much the definition of tone deaf, whether or not you think the idea is a clever one. And he says, again, it isn't, especially. And then rubbing people's noses in it by calling it a bodega is an unnecessary, premature, end zone spike. And they apologized, sort of, today. They said, oh, well, we didn't really think that the name was going to bother anybody. You know, we kind of thought people would like it. And then one of their investors, who's equally white privileged, said, you know, we just don't know what all the fuss is about. We didn't mean to insult anybody. Well, screw you, you did. And it's not just a bad idea or bad branding. It's bad business, and we don't want you. And the bodega cats on Instagram, they hate you.
So one, we're talking about vending machines, right? Yeah,
vending machines. Like
okay.
That's like when Ralph Lauren thought of having jeans, you know?
Okay. Vending machines. I just want to make sure that was clear. Two, are they doing this in New York?
Yeah, they want to do this everywhere. Sure.
So
they're Googlers.
It's a New York thing.
No, I mean, they're doing this all over the country.
Yeah, but BL. What they should have done is said, we're doing this everywhere but New York.
Or Chicago.
It's a New York thing.
Detroit.
We don't have bodegas in Minnesota. I would love to have.
But then you're in Minnesota.
Right.
You would love to have a bodega in
I
your.
would have a algorithmically curated vending machine near me because we don't have bodegas and it'd be convenient.
I'll
And
tell them to
everything.
stay the hell out of the Northeast.
Capitalism isn't sensitive. It is
No,
insensitive.
you know what? It's a really stupid idea to use. No, it is. It's a stupid idea. They thought that using the name of something that people love to take it away from people
They shouldn't.
was
They
a
just
good
should have.
idea.
They just should
And
have
the
stayed away from New
Bodega
York.
cat as
That's
their
all I'm
logo.
saying.
Give me a break. The Bodega cat is like,
Okay, all right,
you know,
I
you
get
don't
it.
do
I get
that.
it.
You
I
don't
get
do
it. I
that.
get it. I get it. So,
You
a
can't
worse,
have them.
an actual worse story.
There are no actual worse stories than doing that.
The Equifax breach is
Well,
actually
that's
a
pretty
worse story.
bad. Yeah, okay.
So this is a Life Hacker by Emily Price wrote about it. So I guess, is this the biggest data breach in the history of data breaches? I
That's
think
what
it
they're
is.
saying, yeah.
Because it's not just limited to Equifax's direct customers, it's everyone. It's affected 143 million Americans.
At
They
least.
knew, at least, right. They knew about it on July 29th and only recently announced it this week. Some executives sold Equifax stock before the breach became public, according to Bloomberg.
That's my favorite part of the
Elizabeth
story.
Dexheimer. So you couldn't have handled this in a more PR unfriendly way. I mean, it's absolutely a case study in how not to handle this. Sit on it. Let your executives sell short some stock before it. So they themselves, however much money they made by selling the stock, they're probably going to have to spend on some really good lawyers.
Yeah, and they're probably going to spend some time in really big jails.
Yeah. So they set up a website where you can check to see if you're affected, but the language they used required you to resolve disputes through forced arbitration, which after a big outrage over that, you can now opt out of that language. The site is EquifaxSecurity2017.com. The number you call is 866-447-7559. So it affects all of us. Life Hacker has some advice. Enroll in Trusted ID, which Equifax is offering free for a year. Check your credit, freeze your credit, set up fraud alerts, keep an eye on your taxes when you file them this year, because somebody may use the information to set up a false tax return and try and get refunds. So we'll have a link to the Life Hacker article for more in-depth information on what you need to do. But from this day forth, the next time all of your data has been released into the wild, you can say you've been Equifaxed.
Yeah, you sure have. You've been screwed. But one of the things about freezing your credit is that you have to remember to unfreeze it if you want to apply for a loan or buy a car or, you know, move to a new apartment. It's a heavy thing to have to do.
It's a lot of things that we have to do that we didn't have any role in.
Well, but if you get something like LifeLock, for example, they handle all that stuff for you. So that might be the way to go. And of course, they should be paying for it. Not just for a year either, but forever. Right. Yeah, they suck. And you know, all three of the credit bureaus were breached in 2013. This is nothing new. So now they're starting to talk about not having social security numbers because apparently those come from like the 1920s or something. And now they're just in too many places and too many people have access to them. So, you know, this is just a whole can of worms, really bad. So, onto another subject that's not so bad but unpleasant. There's BuzzFeed is now admitting that they are going to have to start using banner ads, and you know they've been known for not doing that, for having sponsored posts that are actually compelling and interesting and sometimes have been shared millions of times, but they are finding that that's not enough. And they're about to go public in 2018, so they have to shore up their funds. And so they made the announcement that they're going to have to be adding banner ads like the rest of the world and going programmatic like the rest of the world. And so there'll be more ads for us to ignore now.
Well, it's a fascinating story because of all the people who are doing native advertising, they seem to really get how it works, right? The Hello Kitten videos, but it's highly consumer oriented. There isn't really a direct call to action to measure how that stuff works, right? For most of that stuff. So I think that's probably
they can measure the brand lift. I mean, they claim that they can do all that sort of stuff, and brands have accepted the metrics that they do have, but apparently it's just really not enough.
Well, yay. Well, that's what the world needs, more banner ads.
Yeah, exactly. So do you have another one?
I do.
Okay.
This is from a Mashable article by Carrie Flynn. Apparently, there is a black market for Instagram verifications.
I read that. Isn't that insane?
It is insane. The blue check mark that verifies that you are who you say you are on your Instagram account. The fee to get that, to buy that on the black market, is anywhere from a bottle of wine to $15,000, depending, according to dozens of sources who have sold verification, bought verification for someone else, or directly know someone who has done one or the other. So, of course, the check mark is designed for public figures, celebrities, and brands on Instagram. It grants the users a prime spot in search, so it's a search ranking factor within Instagram, as well as gives you access to special features. It lends some legitimacy for businesses people doing influencer marketing, of course, and bestows some credibility within Instagram itself among its user base. You can't request it online or purchase it according to Instagram policies, which read you are responsible for any activity that occurs through your account, and you agree that you will not sell, transfer, license, or assign your account followers, username, or any account rights. So that's the terms of use. But there are people who go out and find Instagram users who would pay for verification, and they have connections with an Instagram employee who makes the check mark happen for a cut of the fee. So
you just can't tell where the leakers are going to show up these days.
Right.
So they're just everywhere. So one of the most evil men on the planet has been jailed. They took away his bail, and that's Martin Scarelli, the slime ball, who is one of the most hated men really in the world, the infamous former hedge fund manager who was convicted of defrauding investors, and he became, was a danger to the community. But what he's best known for, of course, is jacking up the price of a life-saving drug. And so now this turd is in a maximum security prison because on his Facebook page, he offered a $5,000 reward to anybody who could get some of Hillary Clinton's hair during her book tour. And I mean, that's just not funny, So and then when he entered the court, he refused to get in the elevator with a reporter. He said, "You're fake news." But now he faces up to 20 years in prison for this. And he said, "Oh, I didn't think anybody would take that seriously." And he wanted the judge to give him another chance. And the judge said the fact that he continues to remain unaware of the inappropriateness of his actions or words demonstrates to me that he may be creating ongoing risk to the community. And so he revoked his bond, and he's in jail. Slimeball. I hope he never gets out.
I don't know. What an idiot. That's all
really? I mean, you don't, and he came to court like in purple clothes. Go figure.
Yep.
So, does that bring us to shiny things?
It does indeed. What do you got?
Well, Twitter's got another thing that I think is kind of neat, and they're rolling it out. It's night mode, and it's I don't have it because you click on your profile and you select night mode, and then it makes the screen less bright, so it won't keep you up so much. You're supposed to not sit in front of the screen like right before you go to sleep. Although I've seen articles with people saying that they read in bed and then the phone falls on their face and wakes them up. So I don't know how many people it's going to help, but they're going to have it. It's available for iOS and Twitter for Android. I don't have it yet, but it's coming. And, it's a good idea because I will admit that one of the last things I do before I go to sleep at night is check Twitter. So one of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning, I am, yes, addicted to Twitter. So having that light a little bit less bright would be a good thing.
So we're going from blue light to black light. Is that the idea?
It's not black light. It's just less light. you
That's
know,
right.
like lower light, like
Yeah.
maybe yellow light. I don't know because I don't have it. But you're supposed to wear like yellow glasses if you're sitting at your computer at night because something happens to your brain when you do that that relaxes you.
Yeah. Okay. That's weird.
I have some of those glasses around here somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, Beaver Builder. This is a WordPress plugin. It's a page builder WordPress plugin. So you drop and drag a website. It's basically a drop and drag website development environment. You don't need to know coding. You just take the elements of what you want to place it on the page and do it in a visual environment. It can actually make very beautiful sites. There's a bit of a learning curve to these types of tools, but I just started using this one. It's fast and responsive, has a ton of options, and it's for a fee. So it starts out at $99, but that's more than enough for what most people will need. But
Is that for a year or for what?
I think it's just for probably I don't know, but it's probably for a year, and then you can have the renew for upgrades. That's
So
usually
you can
what they
do that
say.
within an existing site, or this is
Yep.
for building a new one?
It's within an existing site. It works with other themes. So if you've got an existing theme, it'll work with that, and it's a plugin for WordPress. So it's pretty
That's
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. So that brings us to your daily numbers, Dave.
It does indeed. Let's wrap this up for this week. Social sites as sources of news. Always interested in these types of stats, and Pew Research always delivers. They delivered again. So this is Twitter, YouTube, and Snapchat sites where where people get news from. So 74% this year have got news from Twitter, not a surprise. That's up from 52% in 2013. 32% of users get news from YouTube, which is up significantly from 20% in 2013. And 29% get news from Snapchat, which is up from 17% in 2016. There's sites where news usership did not change since 2016. Reddit is roughly the same at 68% from 62% in 2013. Facebook is roughly the same at 68%. Tumblr, 39%. Instagram, 27%. LinkedIn, surprisingly, I think, 23%. And WhatsApp is 23% as well. But LinkedIn, I think, I don't know. I'm surprised that few people get news from LinkedIn because there's a lot of news there.
Yeah, but it's generally not as in-depth as you'll find it in other places or linking to as many. I mean, Twitter just takes you everywhere you need to go, you know, because it's got so many people reporting on whatever it is.
Yeah, LinkedIn is mostly B2B and industry type news too.
Yeah.
So and people probably still just dip into, don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, although I think that's probably changing.
But it's interesting that with all the brouhaha about Facebook and news on Facebook and all of that, you know, it's not growing or it's kind of shrinking a little. People are being affected by the news that there's a problem there.
Well, hopefully people adapt and understand and change their media consumption habits as they learn more about fake news and stuff like that. So.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of episode 201 of the Beyond Social Media Show, and we will have links to everything we talked about, plus we'll have the video on our blog, beyondsocialmediashow.com/201. And I am BL Ochman. On Twitter, I am at What's Next. I blog at What's Next blog. I am, surprisingly, What's Next blog on YouTube. And David Erickson, my charming co-host, is D. Erickson on Twitter. He blogs at estrategyblog.com and creativepr.com/blog, both of which are really informative and interesting ones that you should follow. He is eStrategy on YouTube, and the show, BeyondSocialMediaShow.com on the web. and on YouTube, and on Twitter, we're BS Media Show. We're on iTunes as Beyond Social Media Show. We're on Stitcher. We're on iHeartRadio. And we hope you will subscribe on iTunes and leave us a review, because that would be really helpful to us. And we'll be back next week. And we thank you so much for watching tonight.
Thanks for watching.